Greetings. My name is Louis Molina, and I'm the host of the Life Puro podcast. This week's episode is going to be best viewed via our video streams, meaning YouTube or Spotify. So I highly recommend you check us out that way. I'll try my best to eloquently describe this episode and the events that have taken place recently via audio, but I highly recommend checking out our video streams. So we hope you enjoy this week's episode. So I wanted to recount to you, our audience, what happened to us in the middle of March. Something very unique. In the first episode of the year, I had a recap of what the industry went through last year, some of the forecasts I have for this coming year in 2024. And one of the points I discussed was what we're seeing, this expansion of new entries into the industry. Some people might call it a bubble. Something very similar happened in the 90s with the cigar boom, of which I had a chance to witness and remember the good and the bad elements of that boom. And we're starting to see a little bit of that. And the reason I bring that up is, like I said, we've seen more entries into the industry, new companies popping up, and as a retailer, we're getting bombarded with calls for us to consider these new companies. And as I've mentioned numerous times on the podcast, it's a challenge. You want to bring in everyone, but a lot of these companies are are really green. Maybe don't have many years of experience in the business. Some of them are fly-by-night companies. Others are offshoots of previous companies they worked for, whether it be in a factory or an importing firm, another wholesaler, another retailer. So there is some experience, but actually trying to create a brand for distribution in the United States market is very challenging. Many retailers, like I've constantly mentioned on the podcast, have the challenging and limiting feature of limited space, right? Not a big enough shop to warrant carrying every brand. And that's kind of good and bad in the industry. One of the good things is that as a consumer, you can go into any shop in this country and see a totally different selection. So that's kind of interesting if you're into discovering new brands, especially some of these new entries, and most of them start as small batch or boutique cigars by its nature. But as a retailer, it's challenging to maintain and manage this inventory. So I wanted to recount what happened to us a few weeks ago, and I thought it was very intriguing. It's definitely a unique approach coming from a company that is new and trying to gain access to a lot of cigar shops. So want to recount basically what happened. So around middle of March, my father receives this box from the Dominican Republic, and there wasn't, when he opened up the box, there wasn't any paperwork. It was just this box of cigars. And we thought it was from a manufacturer we're talking to currently, we're talking to about making our own line of cigars for exclusive, like our exclusive brands for in-store sales. And so that's what we thought at first, and we just didn't open it because we were waiting on this particular manufacturer to call us to tell us that he sent this box of cigars. So we started kind of inspecting it. We haven't even opened it yet. And when you look on the outside of the box, it says Domain Cigars. So if you are into reading updates about the cigar industry via great news sources like halfwheel.com and other bloggers, they've already kind of explained what's going on with this company. So the name is Domain, and they sent this box of cigars with this little note, and I'm going to read it to you. Like I said, it says established 2023, Domain Cigars, and kind of a nice thick paper stock, gold foil. And I'm a sucker for packaging. So, I kind of look at the minutia of even packaging like this. So basically the note says, Journeys this long and challenging have shown that exceptional individuals will come forward, and little by little, the dream you sought to create will manifest. My love for tobacco knows no bounds. This quest for excellence was transmitted to me by my mother 4 decades ago. Today, the mark our family has made on cigars is eternal. Welcome to my carta de amor al tabaco. So, welcome to my love letter to tobacco. And there's a signature, who I believe is Esteban Visla's signature, and under it, the title is Master Blender. So I'll basically show some pictures that detail, that kind of illustrate the box and the packaging for viewing via YouTube or Spotify. And so I hadn't opened this yet. Like I said, we thought maybe this was from a manufacturer that we're working with right now. And it's kind of curious, it's a box from the Dominican Republic. In it is packaged a 18 gram Boveda pack, 69%, which is kind of cool, which shows you that the manufacturer cares enough about the box of cigars to make sure to maintain the humidity during his travel. So again, we didn't open it. And a week passed, and I decided, let me just post this picture on our story on Habana Port's Instagram feed. And we posted the story, and about 5 minutes later, we get this message from Domain's Instagram account, and thanking us for posting that and asking how are they smoking. And I basically, was honest and said, look, we didn't smoke the box yet. Thank you for sending this to us, but there was no information regarding the cigars. What can you tell me? And so I assume it's Daniel Lance, the one of the co-owners of this company, Domain Cigars, saying, yeah, when you open up the box, there's a QR code, and it goes through a company announcement. And I'm just kind of reading our Instagram conversation, and there's a concise 10-minute video explaining the company and the story. But as I've kind of stressed, this to me is very intriguing. If you look on the front of the box, it says 1 out of 100. So I thought, oh man, this is a collectible cigar. I mean, it's the first out of 100. That's why I also kind of didn't open it. But then I read some news about this popping up on Half Wheel, and realizing that basically this company chose us as 1 out of 100 cigar retailers, considering, us to basically hopefully buy their cigars and represent them through our shops. So what I wanted to do tonight, or today's episode, is to unbox this box with you, and to kind of, for posterity's sake, kind of catalog this, because it's so unique. I can't remember ever seeing a company basically execute a plan like this for business development, trying to catch the attention of a retailer. Again, we're seeing so many companies right now bombarding us with their sales and, their pitch. And it's kind of hard to separate oneself with a unique story or a unique proposition, to motivate a retailer to carry them. Right. So I thought this was pretty interesting. I've never seen anything like this, where a company just, risk. I mean, it's kind of a risky strategy, right? There's an expense involved with this, a lot of planning, to just ship 100 of these boxes out to, in their view, the 100 best retailers in the country. And, we feel flattered about that. So I feel like, we got to give this company at least some time and attention and hear them out. So with that, I'm going to open up this box right here for you guys and kind of explore what's going on with this. I mean, I almost don't want to break it, but yeah, I figured let's see what the cigars are about. So kind of reading up on the story with this company. It's basically a new startup that is, there's 2 partners involved, Daniel Lance and Esteban Visla. So Esteban, you might know him through his work with Romacraft, or their factory out of Nicaragua called Nica Sueño. I think he's worked there for the past 10 years and is basically the man behind a lot of those cigar brands. And we carry Roma Craft too. So basically, as the train goes by, perfect timing. I don't know the full story. I guess obviously that maybe Esteban left Roma Craft to start this company with Daniel Lance, and he's got a story. So we'll get into that more into that later. But unboxing the cigar with the cello. Yeah, really beautifully presented if you can see it on screen. So it says, Domain Cigars, 1 out of 100. On the bottom shows the company seal, which is Tabacalera Familia d'Isla S.A., established 2023, Esteli, Nicaragua. And there's another line below the emblem that says From Soil to Smoke by Esteban d'Isla and Daniel Lance. So with that, let's give it the old opening procedure. So I'm breaking open the seal on the side and a nice slide lid top box. Oh boy, this is pretty beautiful. So as you can see, there are 6 cigars in this pack. One called Negentropy, Neutron, and Unreleased. And it looks like it's the same. The other 3 are the same, just in a Toro format, it looks like. So I'm going to smoke one of these on camera. I'm going to leave the others for my father and brother so they can try it out. But I think I'm going to go with this Unreleased. So, and I'll probably do it in the Toro format. So I think this Unreleased, there's also some wording that says number 7B. So let me take a picture of this so you guys can see it a little bit better up close. But yeah, I'm pretty impressed with this packaging. Like I said, to see something like this is kind of unique in the industry, just to kind of not cold call, but like just coldly mail out these boxes of cigars in hopes that a retailer, will pay attention and give you a shot. So kind of cool that like these little, I guess you want to call them bridges that kind of hold the cigars in place. And to me, it almost like feels like Roma Craft packaging. Like if you ever seen Roma Craft's boxes, very solid kind of construction. So I'm wondering if that's the influence from Esteban. So this kind of bridge holds the cigars in place. So like I said, I'm going to start with the this number 7B, and it looks like a Toro. And while I'm getting ready for the cut and light, I'm going to pair it with a bourbon. So give you a little story of this bourbon. I got this from a fellow, our Davidoff rep, Garrett Calhoun, who is part of this group of industry people, other cigar reps that go in on these barrel picks every year. And they've been doing it for some time, and Garrett was fortunate enough to invite me to get in on these barrel picks. And I guess their group is called a Unicorn Squad of Awesomeness Barrel Picks. So this particular one, and again, I'm not a bourbon expert, but felt like it would be special to pair this tonight with the cigar. It's from Starlight Distillery, Carl T. Huber's single barrel. It's a bourbon whiskey finished in PX sherry barrels. And I'll show a picture of this on screen, but it has the US of A unicorn logo. and shows distilled on Huber's Farm, small batch, selected by US of A, which is a unicorn squad of awesomeness. And it comes from barrel number 22-2156-3 for those keeping score. It's 107 proof, and it was aged 4 years at the time. It's 750 mils and 107 proof, so pretty hot. And it's looking at this other ribbon, Ascot Awards. I'm sure the bourbon nerds know more about this than I do, but this ribbon up top, or this, not ribbon, but this little kind of tag has this written 2022 Craft Distiller of the Year. And on the back is a picture of the Unicorn Squad of Awesomeness. This is a label for this particular barrel pick. So I'll show pictures of that later. So I'm going to pair this Domaine Cigars number 7B. Looks like it's a Toro, unreleased sample, and just see what it's about. So it's cellophaned. Looks to be like a 7x50, maybe a little bit more, maybe 6.25 inches by 50, but maybe 6x50. And I'm going to take a picture of it just for posterity's sake here before we cut and light. Very cool. And on the band, you'll notice that it's pretty much in black and white. It says TBFD, which I assume is Tabacalera Familia d'Isla. And it says Domain on the bottom, says 7B. So, yeah, let's get it cut and lit. So I'm going to use a straight cut for this. And I don't think there's any information about what this particular blend is, what the anatomy is. So we're just going to smoke it blindly. Going to use a soft flame light for this one, just to be a little more delicate. And right off the bat, it's very, very dark profile. Not spicy at all. I was expecting a little more spice, but pretty rounded out. No spice. Yeah, really dark wrapper. I guess Maduro grade or Oscuro. But yeah, very very clean, surprisingly. I don't know. Sometimes you look at these dark cigars and assume it's going to be really bold or just like too young or unfermented. But no, this is pretty tasty. So at this point, in order to kind of save on time, we'll just kind of fast track the session as I smoke this and kind of give you my thoughts throughout. So we're at about half an inch into the cigar. This number 7B, unreleased Toro, it looks like. And just to give you an update, still very smooth, not spicy at all. But it's rich. It's definitely like a darker profile. I would say like molasses, but not like ultra sweet. It's very balanced. Not sweet, but it's not dry. It's just right in the middle. So that's what we call, refer to as balanced. And looking at the construction of the cigar is pretty solid, burning pretty nicely. The ash, rather even. It's about not quite white ash, but a little bit below. So tells me something about the soil content where it's grown, or the tobacco where the tobacco is grown. A lot of people don't realize the color of the ash can signify some things about the tobacco. Usually if it's darker, it's high in a certain mineral content, and I forget what it is. I don't know if it's potassium or phosphorus. I forget. And if it's white or gray white, it might be rich with another mineral, whether it be nitrogen. Again, I don't remember any of that, so I'm going to have to get some clarification from people in the industry, especially the growers. It could also mean that, especially if it's white, that the tobacco is well aged. Therefore, the combustion is a lot more efficient, so it turns it white. So that's just what I've heard. Again, I'll have to get some clarification to see if that's true. But in the end, I mean, I tell consumers don't really worry about the color of the ash as long as the flavors are nice to you, right? Whether it tastes smooth or clean. So I know a lot of Cuban cigars tend to have a darker ash, or they did. I haven't really smoked many Cubans in the last few years, especially since the prices have skyrocketed in 2023, 24, even a little bit from 22. So we'll continue to puff this and kind of speed up the process here. So let's see, about an inch now. Yeah, definitely get a little more on the earth side of the profile. And I haven't even touched the bourbon to pair with this. So let's give that a little sippy sip. So I guess the fact that this bourbon has been aged in these sherry barrels gives it that kind of distinct, hints of sweetness, which really pair well with this cigar. So you have the kind of like the almost sweet character of the bourbon that really complements the earthy kind of dominant notes, rich notes of this cigar. And people will ask us, how do I know what to pair, my particular cigar with a certain kind of liquor or alcohol. So if you're into pairing cigars with alcohol, to me, in the end, it's experimental, right? So you'll kind of have to do a lot of trial and error runs. Some cigars work with particular spirits or beers, even wines as well. Although like your wine purists, I've heard, really don't like it when you pair a cigar with a wine. It should be, a lot of them feel that the wine should be drunk by itself and not pair with a cigar. I'm of the school thought you do what you want. It's your personal ritual, but know that it might not work. So there's also two philosophies I feel like with pairing cigars with whatever other product, whether it be drinks. It's very rare to pair cigars with food, although some foods work. I found like chocolate. There are even some cheeses. If you do that, certain fruits, a lot of nuts, but really a lot of purists feel like you shouldn't pair a cigar with food. This is a no-no. I'm sure that's more of a European sentiment, but again, I feel it's up to the individual. But if you are going to pair with foods, chocolate I would recommend, but maybe refrain from that. But with an alcohol beverage, a lot of it's trial and error. Bourbons are really popular to pair with certain cigars, Irish whiskeys. For me, the classic is port. So port wine, which is a fortified wine, it usually has a sweeter content. And I found like sweeter drinks tend to do well with cigars in general. Not always, but a lot of these cases you do find that sweeter drinks do tend to pair up nicely with cigars. So I highly recommend a classic kind of port wine, whether it be tawny or the ruby. I like tawnies. It's not as sweet as the rubies. Tawnies to me have kind of like this dried fruit, kind of caramelly undertone that really work well with cigars. And if you're not into drinking alcohol, I really recommend coffee. Tea also works well. So again, a lot of it's trial and error. So if you have a particular favorite tea or coffee, try pairing them with your cigar. I feel enhances the session, but you don't always have to pair it. Most people maybe just smoke the cigar by itself without pairing a drink or foods just by itself. That's definitely a purist maneuver. But I found in pairing cigars and whatever other item you're pairing it with, there's one of two philosophies. Either you pair to complement the two, or you pair it to contrast between the two items. So what do I mean by that? I feel that complementary pairings are a lot more efficient and more pleasant. So what that means is these two items, the drink and the cigar, kind of work hand in hand with one another. One doesn't necessarily overpower the other, but they just kind of work, like a yin and yang, just kind of marry well together. And I don't know if there's a real science to it. Again, it's just trial and error. So you decide what works together. I have found just maybe tips that Irish whiskeys for a lot of the time tend to pair well with Ecuador, Connecticut's, or just Connecticut wrappers because they're usually not on the milder side, but just definitely more on like the white profile side and tend to do well with Irish whiskeys. Maybe a darker spirit, whether it be like a dark rum or a bourbon, tend to do well with like sun-growns or Maduros. But again, there's no like real, I don't think there are any real rules. Again, it's just trial and error. So you just have to kind of experiment and see how they play out. So I feel like these two kind of work together coincidentally enough. So I'll continue to puff and we'll kind of fast track the progress of the cigar to give you further reviews. So with that, Daniel, welcome to the Life Puro podcast.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for having me. I'm Daniel Lance with Domain Cigars. I've got a face for radio, so this is a very fitting interview. I'm coming to you from the Phoenix airport. So
Nice.
if you hear any abrupt charms in the background, that's what's going on. How are you guys doing today?
No, doing fine. In fact, I'm in the middle of smoking the Domain number 7B. So thank you for sending. Well, first of all, thanks for sending us this box. We're pretty honored, that you selected us as one of 100. Awesome. And I'm really stoked to try the rest of these cigars out. But I think we're going to open up an account with you guys, given, I'm sure, the planning, execution, the risk that you undertook to just send out these box at no cost to us. So thank you.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Donata, yeah, you're absolutely welcome. We went through a lot of retailers in the United States and around the world, frankly, the distributors and so on around the world, and really we tried to exercise the discrimination in how we distributed those boxes as an inverse. So we tried to look at our product, what we were doing, and disqualify ourselves from a lot of people's humidors. And I think we were very successful in doing so because the response of the launch of our company and the understanding around what we were trying to achieve, I think has been really powerful and speaks for itself. So we launched directly to all of the retailers. We didn't speak to any kind of cigar media. We didn't put any bombs on, social media and so on. And, really Esteban's been on this journey for 40 years now. But in the last 5 years, he's really been committed to the vision of building that vertically integrated cigar company. I came along in the last 2 years, whenever he parted ways with his last factory that he helped start, which was Nick Swingio. And he divested in that company, and there was some creative differences and so on. But he saw the opportunity to work with me. I lived in Nicaragua. I had no plans or intention of, starting this company and doing this wild thing. And one of my friends asked me, he goes, well, how are you planning on announcing the company? And I go, I hadn't even really considered it, but every time I had ever talked to cigar media and so on, there was a lot of nuance and detail that we always wanted to contribute. And we were already going through and, profiling ourselves and how we sat on the shelf, next to other brands and so on. And we were doing a lot of market analysis. And what we really saw was there was an opportunity to do a distribution by proxy model where we go directly to the retailers, but we go to retailers that we think we can grow with. And we go to retailers that we think have potential to actually build out areas of their business. I mean, 30% of the people that, we sent boxes to have online web stores. If I had said that number 10 years ago, that would have been astonishing. So that's really what we we're trying to do with the 1 of 100. So they are people that we've worked with over the years. Some of them are friends, some of them are retailers. Very few of them are people that we didn't already know, or we didn't identify, or we didn't study extensively. Again, as a practice of trying to disqualify ourselves, from their business. So we're really happy to hear that you're gonna, you plan on opening up an account. That's fantastic. Really look forward to having it on your shelves.
And hopefully by the time this episode airs, we will have stock available for in-store purchase or our online site, which we have. When you watch our podcast, you can obviously see right behind me the website. Our viewer can visit to purchase these cigars and other cigars. So yeah, we're excited. And again, I'm just humbled that you chose us. Now, if you can divulge, if not, maybe not. It doesn't matter to me. But how did you select us? I mean, like I said, we're kind of humbled, and I'm just kind of curious what made you select us as one of the 100.
But yeah, as I mentioned, I mean, we were going through a really meticulous process of trying to find out how we would not fit into certain people's portfolio. And what we ended up doing was we studied about 20 or so different brands that are pretty ubiquitous in the cigar community, many of which, in fact, Esteban had blended cigars for before in the past. And what we did was we went through their portfolio, their catalog. We looked through several online catalogs. We, physically visited multiple stores. I've had the benefit of, my career in cybersecurity. I travel around the United States continuously, almost sometimes. So I've had the benefit of visiting a lot of lounges over the years and getting a good idea of what their inventory and their backstock look like. And a lot of lounges that don't have online, and a lot of lounges that are a little bit old school, they always have a wall of boxes. So I'll give you some tips and tricks here, and how other companies can qualify themselves into your humidor. Is some of those old school lounges, they have that wall of boxes that are used cigar boxes, empty boxes. So what I would do is I'd click a photo of that, and then we go through and actually count the size and what brands were represented there. We would add that up against our sheet and kind of figure out whether or not those shops that were moving through a lot of those boxes, what boxes they were moving through the most, of what brands, and in what sizes. That's also why there's 9 sizes in the featured cigars. The reason for that is we wanted to get as close as possible to what your customers are already familiar with smoking. So there's really not just one single point of criteria. There's multiple points of criteria that we added up to figure out who we wanted to, share this celebration with. And it was a celebration. It's not meant to be an exclusive club. Of course, we've had retailers reach out to us that, we didn't send anything to, and we wish we could have got everybody, of course. But again, we really wanted to, do this as a celebration with people that we thought we could grow with and help build our brand. I mean, domain, the higher level. This is where I'm going to take over your podcast. I'm sorry.
But, no, go for it. This is your show right now.
But the higher level goal of domain, it's a bit lofty, right? We want to better define what a third wave cigar maker is. And when I say that, do either of you, does that ring a bell with either of you? Does that nomenclature even make sense to you today?
It does. I've heard that term in the coffee world.
Yeah, exactly. So that's part of where I get it from. So Domain, the company, has been a exploration for me into the world of flavor. So anytime I can't find something myself, or I find an opportunity for myself to take something that I love and enjoy in the gastronomy space, I try to elevate that with the brand Domain. So Domain actually started out as a coffee company, started out as Domain Cold Brew, and I did that as a collaboration several years ago, and that ran for about 3 years, 3.5 years. We were in 2 states and about 300 locations in the Midwest. So what we're really trying to do is we're taking that model, and it perfectly fits tobacco. So you have an agricultural product, and you put a brand around it, and you make it something that you can ship and distribute around the country. Well, that's the first wave of coffee. So you think Maxwell House and Folgers and so on. The defining moment, or the zeitgeist for tobacco, of course, was the exodus of Cuba. And that's where you have the first wave of cigar makers are really born on that day, even though cigar making and the tradition around them had gone on for 100, 200 years prior. The definition of our current cultural understanding of tobacco is defined by the Cuban exodus. We can't avoid that. Now, how do we define the story that we want to tell in premium cigars and in high quality cigars? Well, in the 90s, you had this, massive cigar boom. So think again, second wave of coffee, that was ubiquitous, right? Making it a standardized cafe, a standardized set of drinks and making it omnipresent. So that's the Mermaid Company, aka Starbucks. I still like saying that name because I was in the coffee game, right?
Right,
But
right.
the Mermaid Company is what standardized cafes and the cafe experience in the United States. So that's really the second wave. Well, that was the direction and commission wave for tobacco in the United States. So whenever it comes to cigar tobacco throughout the 90s, you had a series of people that said, I know the marketing, I know the industry, I know the culture of the United States better than you do, first wave cigar maker. Make me a cigar, I'll put my name on it. And out of that, we got some fantastic brands that have come to define what current modern day premium cigars are. The third wave of that, and again, as this relates to coffee, is being able to exact quality control in all ways, shapes, and forms across that process. So whether it be from the agricultural side, whether it be the tooling and equipment that they're utilizing to brew that coffee, as that relates to tobacco, the only way that Esteban and I saw fit to be able to do this was to actually own our own fields, own our own crops, grow our own tobacco, rotate our own colognes, and build our own factory, build our own brand. So to be a third wave cigar maker and to actually build that into our current modern day zeitgeist, to shred away the cultural understanding that we've had of cigars to date that have historically been defined by the first wave that occurred in 1962. To do that, we have to start actually defining cigars in such a way that's more intelligible. We have to define it using I'm actually at the airport seeing another retailer here waving at me.
Oh, come on. Nice. And then for people who don't know that you're on your way to the PCA trade show, which is a big cigar show. So kind of cool that we're talking to you en route while you're en route to like the biggest show in the cigar world.
Yeah, en route. So this is all off the dome. So
yeah,
anyway,
love it.
But yeah, so that's really what a third wave cigar maker is today. To me, that's how we have to start defining ourselves, and we have to be able to exact that quality control. And this is the same conversation I had with Boveda. I don't know if you saw our boxes, our feature cigar boxes. They actually have the Boveda logo built into all of our own branding, all of our own artwork. It's the first time Boveda has ever done integrated branding with a cigar maker. They've never done this before. And they always have people put separate stickers on. And I told them, I go, look, the only reason why you believe that Mario can spit fireballs is because he just jumped up 10 feet and broke bricks with his head, right? I have to keep people inside of my experience. I have to keep them inside of the romance of my brand, and I have to keep them inside of that third wave ideology of how a cigar maker is going to approach the market into the future. So we work together with them, and that's really what I mean is, why do you need to own the brand as a third wave cigar maker? Well, you have to be able to exact quality control, point of service for your customer. And part of that is picking world-class retailers. Part of that is disqualifying yourself from retailers that aren't going to care for the product the way that it needs to be. And part of that is being able to put a Boveda pack in every single box before you ship it. I know that seems really small, but it's actually doing those things. Why would I spend all this time and energy protecting the tobacco from the moment it's harvested to the moment that it's consumed if I'm just going to skip out on the last mile? So those are all part and parcel with what Esteban and I are trying to do in defining how a third wave cigar maker is going to come to market into the future. And frankly, we hope that other people mimic some of the things that we've done here with the launch of the company and so on. That said, hey, we've been at this a long time. It's been a lot of money invested. It's not going to be for everybody.
Sure.
It's really not going to be for everybody. It's going to be for people that are crazy, passionate about tobacco. And, frankly, you'll probably see them from a mile away here in the future because, we were able to keep this a secret living in Nicaragua and so on. But, I could only imagine if people do this in the future, they're going to need a lot of help. We had a lot of help. We had a lot of fantastic partners. Oliva Tobacco, Roberto, Oliva, Nixa, fantastic people. John Sr. and Oliva Tobacco personally met up with me, went out to lunch with me. I met with all of our partners that we buy wrapper from and so on in person. a lot of fantastic, hospitable people in this industry. So, yeah, we hope to see more third wave cigar makers pop up.
Well, and that's what in the beginning of this episode I was explaining to our viewer. This was so unique because we just got this box. We were expecting a box of cigars from a partner manufacturer we're working with for our own exclusive brand. So we thought it was something from him. So we didn't open it for about a week, just thinking, waiting on him to call us. And lo and behold, you know what? Nothing happened. So I posted the picture of this box on our story. You saw it on Instagram, and you replied via direct message asking me how the cigar was, and I hadn't heard of you. So I just thought it was a really novel approach into getting your brand recognition out there, your business development. It sounds like you're very data dependent, which I love. I'm a nerd about that too. I'm a cigar nerd, just like you, it sounds. So it just, to me, it's a perfect fit. And as I was explaining earlier in the show, we have a lot of people, especially right now, we're kind of seeing the same dynamics that occurred in the boom with so many entries coming in. We get called on daily now. And to me, it's like, well, what's your value proposition, right? Why should I carry you? And to me, you're doing everything right. You're checking off all the boxes. So we're going to be proud to carry you and represent you. Right now, I'm loving the 7B, so I'm excited about trying the Negentropy and the Neutron. I know you're quick on time or short on time. Give me a quick synopsis of the Negentropy and the Neutron for our listener.
So Negentropy was from the most epic blending day ever. That's a video that we have on our website, domaincigars.com. It's at the bottom of the website there, where I'm kind of explaining what happened, because tobacco is hard, and developing that cigar was fun. Blending cigars is a fantastic amount of fun. So Negentropy was the first day that we actually had all of our tobaccos together in the same room. Blended that cigar. It came together beautifully. We initially had another cigar in mind for a Habano, but after laying that down in our aging room, and we're going to do a whole video series on like cigar aging and what we've learned about cigar aging. We've been tracking all this with computers. We have multiple computers right now in the factory, all doing incredible things. But Negentropy is one of these cigars that has just so many layers of depth and flavor, and it's bold and intense, and it's hard to describe without getting into flavors. The flavors that I pull out of that cigar is just eucalyptus, black pepper foot. The overall profile, I would say, is for us full bodied. That's where full body is going to lie for us. Now, whenever you talk about Neutron is that Mexican San Andreas wrapper from Alberto Oliva, from Tenixa. That cigar actually came about because I was talking to Esteban about blends that he was working on, 15 plus years ago, and what other factories were doing with a lot of times different wrappers. We didn't have as much San Andreas in the industry at the time. Say maybe 15 years ago, it was popular, but it was being used a lot of times on cigars that were not so premium, is maybe the most polite way to say it.
Yeah.
but that said, people were taking Sumatra and other wrappers into areas of the flavor world that just really hadn't been cracked open. And I was asking Esteban, is there a way that we can blend a San Andreas to not always be this medium full bodied monster? Because a lot of times when you blend San Andreas to be medium bodied, it turns into this chalk-like kind of consistency. The smoke just doesn't perform right. And he came back and said, hey, I think we can do that with the tobacco we already have. We don't have to actually start in the farm. We don't have to make any real changes to clones. I think we can actually do that with what we've been doing with some of our Pueblo Nuevo and some of our Condega tobaccos. And what he put together was that Mexican blend that you have there, which is Neutron. So it is, I think it's a masterpiece from Esteban. Every time I retrohale that cigar, for me, Neutron is just lots of vanilla flavor, macadamia nut, which I know is a little bit of an unusual tasting note, but for me, macadamia nut, because if you've ever, it's difficult with macadamia nut, because if you eat macadamia nut fresh, you don't understand exactly what I'm talking about. If you eat the salty ones that they have in the grocery store, it's just not the same experience. But and then silk, which is, you know, a textural note. And I think that's what's really unique and brilliant about what Esteban did with that blend, is that instead of having that kind of chalk-like residue that a medium-bodied San Andreas will typically carry, it actually comes across as this super silky smooth, and the retrohale is so incredibly smooth on the cigar. So I really, really love that blend. I believe it's one of the finest things that Esteban's put together. So really in all of that, it's crazy too. When we smoke that cigar at 1 month, performs completely different than it does at 2.5 months. So it's really critical, the environment that it's kept in and aging. I think it just goes to show how much we are doing with tobacco is, you know, so important around the environmental controls that you have in place to be able to hold that tobacco at humidity and temperature and vapor pressure that you're, you know, you're going to be able to get those really incredible flavors out of the tobacco if it's kept right.
Now, what is this? I'm looking at the sales sheet. What do you mean by Hispanic process of fermentation?
Yeah, so the Hispanic process
okay.
of
Hispanic.
fermentation. Yeah, so this is kind of a process that's named after Esteban's mother, Aurora, and what they had been doing is they've been working tobacco, the Disla family, since they were in the Dominican Republic. And they first started out working with Sergio Cuevas. Sergio Cuevas was, you know, one of the few last Cuban masters that had a great deal of interest in agriculture. Cuba was, you know, was known for producing a lot of cigar tobacco. It wasn't really known for producing a whole lot of cigars. A lot of the cigars were produced in Tampa, and they were produced in Wisconsin, and so on. So Sergio Cuevas was one of those really unique people who both had production experience and, of course, agricultural experience. And he agreed to, you know, allow Raul and Esteban to apprentice with him because he saw the potential in their work and their work ethic. And so the Hispanic process is named in honor of Esteban's mother, Aurora. It's part of her name is Destinique. It's a kind of a complicated name in Spanish. But that said, what we're doing is we're doing something that's a mixture between how you would typically grow and cultivate Cuban tobacco. We're using fermentation methodology that is fairly typical in the Dominican Republic, but we're skewing that with very, very different approach to Nicaraguan tobacco. And, you know, a lot of what we're growing today are Corojo hybrid and so on. So that skews it even further when you compound all of those processes that would typically just never meet up in a normal circumstance. Doing things like Polone doping and so on, it just gets more into the really geeky side of tobacco.
No, I love it. Yeah, I've never heard that term, so I was very curious about that. I can't wait to smoke the Neutron and the Negentropy. If they're going to smoke anything like this unreleased number 7B, I'm really excited. And I'm excited for our customers to be able to, you know, share these cigars with them.
Yeah, for sure. Absolutely. Actually, I got to go run on my plane here.
Yeah. Don't let me hold you up. And look, we'll talk again in the future. Good luck at the trade show. And you're always welcome to Louisiana. Can't wait to meet you in person.
Hey, really, really appreciate you. Thanks for your time.
Absolutely. Take care.
All right, take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
All right. So there you have it. On the phone with Daniel Lewis, one of the I'm sorry, Daniel Lewis. I'm thinking of the actor. Thinking of Daniel Lance, one of the co-founders of Domain Cigars. So we're excited to be able to share them with you. Hopefully by the time you see this video, this podcast or hear it, we'll have it in store or on our site at shop.habanaport.com. And I forgot to mention to him, I know he's short on time, so I wanted to thank Daniel again for taking the time to talk to us from the airport while he's traveling to the big cigar trade show, which is going to happen in the next few days in Las Vegas this year. Next year, it'll be in New Orleans, I believe. So hopefully we can be out there, maybe do some podcast recording there for next year. So that should be exciting. But we want to thank Daniel for taking the time to talk to us to kind of elaborate more on the story of his company and the experience of Esteban regarding these cigars. So very unique. As you've heard him say, not only do they manufacture the cigars, which is a selling point, at least from us as a retailer, as to why we bring in anyone new, are they a manufacturer? But number two, you heard that they're growing a lot of the tobacco themselves. And not only growing the tobacco, but they're involved in the pre-industry, which that's just industry term for the processing of the tobacco after it's been picked from the fields, hung in the barns to quote unquote dry or cure. What they do after that, after those steps, basically fermenting in the pilones, baling them, aging them. So it seems like this company is a little bit more vertically integrated than other new entries. So that's for us, it's a huge selling point, something that differentiates this company from maybe other new entries. So this 7B, I don't think it's going to be released yet. Maybe he markets it, at least according to the sales sheets that we've received, that as unreleased. So it could be an upcoming project, but the Negentropy and the Neutron are going to be at least the initial core releases. So with that, I'll finish this cigar and maybe we should I'll record the review of the Negentropy and the Neutron. So just wanted to come back and maybe kind of finish this review of this 7B and to impart some other thoughts regarding this company. Again, as we've mentioned, it's very unique in their approach to marketing and getting their name out. As you heard, Daniel I guess they were very secretive, right? Not many people knew about this company coming out. All of a sudden, middle of March, bam, Domain is being talked about in a lot of the blogs, other news sites like Half Wheel. Pretty cool that he sent us this box. So again, we're just humbled that he considered us to receive these cigars. And he sold us. I mean, we bit the hook and are going to bring these guys in and see how they perform in the stores and our site. So if you can't make it to any of our stores in Metairie or Baton Rouge, you can shop at shop.habanaport.com. We'll ship these out to you. You can buy a single or a box worth and see for yourselves. At least the way this cigar is finishing, it's very smooth. I'm retrohaling this without any irritation in the sinuses. That's a good sign of how clean the tobacco is. That Despanique, I mispronounced it earlier, process of fermenting is rather unique. And yeah, we'll show a little bit of the video that Daniel and company have created to kind of further illustrate and discuss the company origin and what they plan to do with their company. So yeah, no, just messaging Daniel. As you heard, he was on his way to the trade shows, boarding a plane in Phoenix. So thank you again, Daniel, for taking the time to talk to us. Again, I can't stress how very unique his approach is to getting the word out, putting these cigars in retailers' hands in a very unique way to generate some interest. Because it's very tough. I mean, it's a very competitive space. As I've mentioned numerous times, the shelf space is very limited. So new entries have a challenging time ahead in order to at least get a foothold in cigar shops. So I'm anxious to try the rest of these cigars out. I'm sure they're going to be awesome. And so, with that, I'll continue to finish this cigar. I mean, it's very smooth. I can retrohale it. No problem. Very, very tasty. Very rich, but smooth. It's kind of an oxymoron, I guess, but it's fantastic. Well, everyone, thanks again for tuning in this week. Great episode, very unique. Again, that's the word of the day. Thanks to Daniel once again. Look forward to trying these cigars in our stores. And check them out at domaincigars.com or go to shop.habanaport.com, and we'll throw in a discount code for free shipping on any Domain cigars you purchase. So with that, take care. We'll see you next time. All right, everyone.